live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Betscast for Tuesday, August 16th here at FTN Bets and sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game too. It's super easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like and pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So for example, it could be something like the number of hits in baseball, the number of runs scored, maybe the number of strikeouts that a pitcher is going to have tonight. And then you're going to choose an amount of money you want to enter into the contest. And if you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money that you put in if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason why I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper, it's the only app where you can join in with all your buddies and play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing, and we could all see what the guy who's won 4 days in a row in our group is playing. And it's insanely fun when everybody is riding it out together and rooting for the same things to happen. So stop what you're doing now, download the Sleeper app, play in their new over-under game, have some fun with your friends, and make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can go to sleeper.com/FTNBets, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. Again, sleeper.com/FTNBets, and you get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for these details. We have been going through all of the teams in the NFL one by one, breaking them down at the betting angles, basically. How many wins they're going to have every year, how many, what their chances are to make the playoffs, whether or not they're going to win any trophies, AFC, Super Bowl, anything like that. And then breaking down some of the best player prop bets for the season-long player prop bets for each individual team. We're all the way out now to the last 2 divisions that we have left. We have the AFC West and the NFC West. And we're going to start here in the AFC with the Denver Broncos here today. So last year, the Denver Broncos were quarterbacked by Teddy Bridgewater for the most part, a little bit of Drew Lock mixed in there as well. This year, there's obviously a big change. They brought in Russell Wilson from the, Seattle Seahawks. So Russell Wilson is going to be the quarterback for this Denver Broncos team this year. Last year, this Denver Broncos team actually finished last in their division. They were 7-10. Kansas City won the division at 12-5. Las Vegas Raiders were 10-7. Los Angeles Chargers were 9-8. Denver is 7-10. This is one of the most stacked divisions in all of football. All 4 of these teams are good to above average teams. Some of them with a chance to make the playoffs and make some noise going deep into it. The Chargers have one of the best offenses in all of football. They are able to put up a ton of points with the guys that they have. Kansas City as well. Denver hoping to be up there in that group this year, by getting the piece that everybody said they were missing last year, which was a quarterback. So there's going to be a lot of points that are scored in this division. You have good defenses. The Chargers, very good defense. Denver, very good defense. This is a very, very deep division, and it could kind of go either way. And it's one of the ones that's going to be the most competitive, I think. I mean, listen, you look at this division last year, you had 12 wins, 10 wins, 9 wins, 7 wins. So we're looking at 22, 31, 38 wins in this division last year versus only 30 losses. So, this is a division that did well outside of playing each other and beating up on each other during the season. This is a division that had a good record against the other teams that they played. So again, this is going to be very, very competitive from top to bottom. The reason I say that is because I think the Denver Broncos are a very good team. And when we get into their Super Bowl numbers, you're going to see that they're one of the lower numbers to win the Super Bowl. It just so happens, though, that there are 2 other teams in their division that are just as low, if not lower. And, that makes this a little weird because when we talk about the AFC West, if you take the Denver Broncos and put them into some of the other divisions in football, they're probably the first or second best team in those divisions. In this division, they're really picked to be the 3rd best team in this division this year. And I can't really say I can argue against it. And here's the other crazy thing now. So we're going to get into the win totals here. And this is why I said everything that I said here. They are picked to come 3rd in this division. But yet Jeff Ratcliffe still has them projected for 10.2 wins. Most other divisions, 10.2 wins is going to have you probably knocking on the door of winning the, division title. in the AFC West, 10.2 wins barely gets you third place. And that's what the Denver Broncos are this year. So I think Denver is very good. I think Denver has a very tough division, which means it's not going to be a cakewalk for them. It's not like they're Tampa Bay or the Buffalo Bills where they're going to go, 5-1 or 6-0 in their division this year. I mean, if you go 4-2 in this division, you had a really good year probably. And I think that's really what Denver wants to be shooting for here. But 10.2 wins is not an insignificant number of wins. DraftKings has this number right at 10, minus 110 to the over, minus 110 to the under. So 10 is pretty much the number that it looks like the Denver Broncos should be at here. You guys know I hate taking the number when you got to push. I either want to take a half number on the downside or a half number to the upside so that I can get an over or an under on it. I don't want to get a push on it there because a push is the worst thing. You leave your money out there for what, 20 weeks before the season's finally over at this point. And, for you to basically just get your money back. I with the way inflation is these days, 10%, come on, you're going to wind up losing money if you put it in and just get it back there. So I don't like taking those numbers. Give me an over or an under. Give me that half number so that we can go either direction. So let's look at the books that do have it at a half number. So FanDuel is the best price if you want to go over 9.5 wins. So again, we're at 10.2. 10 seems to be pretty much the mid mark. So the over at FanDuel at 9.5 is going to be juiced up, obviously. It's minus 135. Is that a little high? Yes, I think it is a little bit high. So I don't really want to play it there. But I did want to let you guys know because it is the number that's out there in the market. If you want to play an over, best place to do it at 9.5 wins. FanDuel minus 135. The other books actually have it at an even higher price. Now, if you want to play an under, you want to go up to 10.5 from that 10 number. And that would be PointsBet is the place you want to go there. PointsBet has the under. It is way juiced up. Under 10.5 wins is minus 165. And that's why I'm thinking like, God, I really don't want to play that number there at minus 165. But if you want to play an under, that is the place to do it. For me, I think the number is pretty much right on with the 10 wins here. I'm not really going to play either one of these sides. I don't want to pay juiced up to get it at 9.5. And I don't want to, take an under on it when I'm getting it way juiced up at minus 165 over there. So I do like them to the over. I think they do win 10 games this year. But again, I don't think there's a good number for us to bet on. Will they make the playoffs? Yes is minus 139. No is plus 120. You can get the yes, they will make the playoffs. Minus 140 to minus 145 is the consensus number out there. So minus 139, Bet River Sugar House, the best number that you can get it at right there. You save a couple basis points, 1 to 5 based on 1 to 6, I guess, based on whatever book you're looking at there. But again, minus 139 is the best number of the online sports books. Bet Rivers and Sugar House both have it there at minus 139. I think Unibet might have it there as well. So there are multiple places we could play it. If you want to play no, Denver will not make the playoffs. Plus 120 is that number. PointsBet, FanDuel, DraftKings all have it at that plus 120. No, they will not make the playoffs. And again, I don't think that's crazy, right? Because it's tough to get 3 teams from a division to make it into the playoffs here. You have Kansas City, you have the Chargers, you have the Denver Broncos. One of those 3 teams is probably not going to make it. I think most people expect Kansas City to be the top of this division. That means that there's a good chance that, one of those teams that finishes with remember, 10 wins last year guaranteed you getting in. 9 wins, though, some of those teams got in, some of those teams didn't. I could see both the Chargers and Denver being around that 9-win mark going into the last week of the season, either needing a win or needing somebody else to lose in order to get in or get knocked out of the playoffs. So I don't think it's crazy to take Denver at plus money to not make the playoffs because they could be one of those teams that loses whatever that coin flip is. So just keep that in mind there. I actually like to know they will not make the playoffs at plus 120. I think the payout's better over there. PointsBet, FanDuel, DraftKings is the way you can play any of those numbers. With that being said, like I said, I do think this team does win around 9-10 games. So, really we're just betting on this because it's probably a coin flip. And to get 120 on something that's a coin flip, you're going to take that every time. So let's move on and talk about the Denver Broncos to win the AFC West. Like I said, normally if you got a team with double-digit wins, you would expect them to be like plus 175 or lower to win their division. Maybe even like even money or below even money to win it. But no, the Denver Broncos, you can get at plus 300 to win this division over on PointsBet right now. PointsBet is the one site where we noticed all of the payouts for the Denver Broncos are a little bit higher on PointsBet than they are somewhere else. So maybe PointsBet is just hating on the Denver Broncos here and don't like the Russell Wilson move or something. But they have the best number for the Denver Broncos in a lot of different markets out there. So they must be the lowest on the Denver Broncos. But like I said, you can get them at plus 300, plus 250, plus 275, plus 290 is kind of like where you're finding it at all the other books. So again, it's a little bit higher on points bet at plus 300, but you're not giving up many basis points from the other books there. Kansas City is plus 175 to win this division. The Chargers are plus 250 here. The Broncos are plus 300. Now, I'm going to be honest, where I think the value is, because these teams are all so evenly matched, I think the value is going with the chalk here. So like there's no other, like Buffalo Bills are like minus 200 to win the AFC East. Kansas City is plus 175, and they won this division by 2 games last year. And the team that they won it by 2 games was the Las Vegas Raiders, who's the team most people are picking to come in 4th in this division this year. So I mean, really, Kansas City probably has as big a margin of victory, or at least as big an expected margin of victory as the Buffalo Bills do, except, this is a little bit better of a division. So people are giving them a much worse price. I actually would rather play Kansas City here than touch Denver on will they win the AFC West. So again, if you want to take Denver to win the West, it is plus 300 on points bet. I just think there are other ways that I would rather play this division that make a little more sense to me. Let's see. If I don't like them to win the West, I probably won't like them to win the AFC East, and I don't like them to win the AFC, to win the AFC East, to win the AFC overall here. 11-1 is the best number we can get on them on points bet. They're 8.5 to 1, 9 to 1, plus 850, plus 900 on all the other books. So again, points bet with the worst price, but even the worst price is only 11-1 for them to win the AFC. That's like a 9% chance, 9% chance they're giving them to win the AFC. I don't think it's that high. I really don't think it's that high. I think teams like Buffalo and Kansas City, and even in their division here, even the Chargers as well, like they're Tennessee and Indianapolis, like I don't love this Denver team. I don't know, maybe I'm just not as high on the Russ Wilson thing. I do like a lot of the pieces. I definitely think Russ is going to help. I think the defense is still good. Like I feel like all the pieces are there, but 11-1 is not high enough for me to want to be on it. So I just think that's too low of a number. But remember, it's 8.5 to 1, 9 to 1 on other sites. So if you are a Broncos backer, points bet 11-1, the best number that you can get on them out there. So let's talk about the Super Bowl. Again, if I don't like them to win the AFC, I'm definitely not going to like them to win the Super Bowl. They're only 18-1 to win the Super Bowl. Points bet, Bet Rivers, Sugar House, Unibet all have them there at 18-1. Their low is 16-1. Again, you're talking like what is that, like a 6% chance? It's like a 6% chance to win the Super Bowl. I don't know, man. Maybe it's like I said, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just hating on it, but I do not see this Denver Broncos team being able to put this all together and really being that good this year. I think they can get to 10 wins. I don't think they're like a 13, 14 win team that's going to dominate the league and go on and win a Super Bowl. It's just not the way I see them. So 18-1 to me, again, not high enough to get me interested. But if you are, Bet Rivers, Sugar House, Points Bet, Unibet all have it at plus 1800, which is the best number you can get out there. So that wraps it up for the team stuff. Let's go talk about some of the individual players. And whenever we talk about the players, we always start with the quarterback, and this is obviously a big quarterback to start with. So we'll start with Russ Wilson here. Russ Wilson MVP number plus 1600, 16-1 over on Caesars. 14-1 is basically the consensus number. DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, PointsBet all have it at 14-1. Caesars, though, at 16-1 is the best number you can get. So if you think that they do put this all together, that they go 13-4, that they win the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they go on to win the Super Bowl or something like that, then yeah, Russ MVP 16-1 makes a hell of a lot of sense here. So again, I would rather put it this way: I would rather play Russ MVP at 16-1 than play Denver to win the AFC at 11-1. Because you're basically talking for the same things there, right? You need Russ to have a big season and a decent playoffs there. Like I would just rather play, if they're going to win the AFC, they're going to do it because they got a 1 or a 2 seed or something, and they had an easy path to get there. Then they won a big game or two that they needed to. And in order for that to happen, Russ is going to have to go nuts. So I like Russ MVP at 16-1 more than I like betting on any of the team total stuff there. Let's see, Russ to have the most passing yards in the league, 25-1 plus 2,500 on FanDuel. It's 15-1 on Caesars. So, obviously the FanDuel price at 25-1 is a lot better than 15-1 on Caesars. With that being said, I don't think he really gets there. The projections for him are like 4,050 yards, 4,100 yards. we had guys that threw for 5,000 yards last year. So in order for him to have the most passing yards in the league, he would really need to do something different. And again, I mean, you could argue that maybe some of the situations are better, but one thing I don't think is better is the receivers that he has. And again, no knock on Cortland Sutton, no knock on Jerry Jeudy. I think both of those guys are pretty good, but DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are really, really good too. So that could be the one argument you can make is that, you know what, maybe the pass catchers that Russ have, I could see how Russ makes his pass catchers better. I don't think his pass catchers, though, make Russ better. I don't think this is the best set of weapons that, Russell Wilson has ever played with. And I think they're going to play a very similar style, maybe a little bit faster, but, very similar style where the run game is still going to be heavily involved here on the team that he's quarterbacking. So let's see, that 4,050 yards is the best place to play the over if you're interested in that. It's always tough to do when you have a new quarterback coming into a new situation. It's always tough to kind of project his yards, right? But you look at what Denver did last year, 3,839 yards passing, and that was with mostly Teddy Bridgewater and a little bit of Drew Lock in there. So again, if Russ stays healthy, I don't think it's crazy that he throws for over 4,000 yards. I'd rather be on the over than the under here. The over 4,050 yards, FanDuel, minus 112 is where you could play that. So if you're interested in Russ Wilson passing over, FanDuel is the place to play it, minus 112 there. If you want to play the under, DraftKings has the number at 4,100 yards, so you're getting an extra 50 yards there. And DraftKings has it at a standard minus 110 juice too. So if you're going to play under 4,100 on DraftKings at the standard minus 110. If you want to play the over, 4,050 on FanDuel, minus 112 is the payout there. Passing touchdowns for Russell Wilson, 31.5, minus 110 to the over and the under. Russ to lead the league in passing touchdowns is plus 1,600, which is pretty much a consensus number out there, 16-1. 31 is not like league lead numbers. There's probably going to be a handful of quarterbacks that throw for that. I think on his best season he can. But I also think there are scenarios where he doesn't. That don't include him getting hurt, like, playing a full season and just leaning on the run game a lot more than that. Or, I mean, it's really not a huge number, right? I mean, I'm talking like less than 2 touchdowns per game, which I don't think is something Russ can't do. If he has like a crazy like 4 touchdown game and like a 42-38 shootout at some point during the season, maybe like, yeah, I think it's a good number. Let me say it that way. Like, I don't really want to play the over. I would probably lean under if I had to, but I'm not putting a bet on this, so it's not like I really care. I don't have a horse in this race at all. I think 30, 31, 32 is probably around where he's going to throw. So 31.5 is the perfect number there. And I just don't see any value in it. So we'll skip that. So anyway, let's talk about some of the other stuff out there. How about let's go to the backfield first, Javonte Williams. So pretty crazy. Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon split the carries in the backfield last year. When I say split them, I mean right down the middle. 203 carries for each of them is what is the number I was looking at this morning, which is pretty hard to do unless you try. Gordon did do it in one less game. He played 16. Williams played all 17. But again, they had the same number of carries, and Gordon is back again this year. And I know everybody's saying, yeah, but Javonte's going to get the bigger workload and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Maybe he does. But there's a difference between getting a, Christian McCaffrey 95% of the touches workload and being the guy who gets a bigger workload in a 55-45 or a 60-40 kind of split. And even 55-45 and 60-40 are vastly different, right? Like, these two guys were a direct 50-50 split last year. Williams did have a little more in a passing game, but it wasn't like Gordon didn't have anything in a passing game. Like, I mean, I think there were 60, 70 catches between the two of them. Gordon had like 25 and Williams had like a little less than 50, like 47, 48, somewhere around there. So again, I mean, maybe it was already a 55-45 split last year. Maybe it gets to 60-40 this year, but I still think Gordon is going to be heavily involved. So, you look at some of these numbers here. I mean, listen, Williams did get 903 yards rushing last year. Gordon had 918. He led the team. So let's say you switch that, right? And maybe you say that, Javonte Williams, and it's not going to be 200 carries each. It's going to be 250 for Williams and 150 for Melvin Gordon, which again, even at that number, I mean, you're looking at 5/8. So we're looking at what, like 60, that's like a 63, almost a 65%, 35% share there. So let's say it's more like, I don't know, 225, 230 carries, probably 225, 230, and then like 175. That's probably the way it gets split up here. But again, if he ran for 900 yards on 200 carries, you're basically saying that at 225 yards, he's probably going to be penciled in to average about probably going to be penciled in to get 1,000 yards. So over 899 for the rushing yards on BetMGM at minus 115. It's an interesting number. I would be willing to take the Javonte Williams over 899.5, even though I'm going to be the first one to tell you I don't expect it to be a 66-33 2/3 split. I think 60-40 is probably the most that we're looking for, and that would be like 225 to 175 or something like that. So just keep that in mind. But I do like the over 899.5, minus 115. BetMGM, he had 903 last year. We're projecting him for at least 10 to 15% more carries this year, if not more. Some people have it way more. I don't. But that would definitely put Javonte over. So I like Javonte Williams over on the rushing yards. His rushing and receiving yard, 1,199. I don't hate that either. I mean, he had 300 yards receiving last year. I would expect him to get some more receiving yards this year. Again, if you're going to give him a little bit bigger thing, maybe you take some of those targets away from Gordon. So now maybe you get Javonte Williams up above 50 catches. So again, for fantasy, that's great. But, for what we're talking about here with his overall props, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe 350 is what you can assume for passing. So again, you're probably giving yourself about 100, 150 yards of leeway there, but I like taking the rushing yards more than I like the rushing and receiving number. But I did want to let you guys know 1,199 on BetMGM. You can play that over at minus 115, or 1,250. You can play the under on DraftKings. It is juiced up a little bit though at minus 120, but that is where it is there. So I wanted to let everybody know that. So now let's talk about some of the pass catchers here. First thing I want to mention is Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick last year, second in the team in receiving yards, played 16 games, had 53 receptions, which was third or fourth on the team, 734 receiving yards, which was second on the team, and 5 touchdowns, which was actually the most of all of the non-running back pass catchers here. So, Tim Patrick, the fact that, they're probably going to be without him this year, that is a little bit of a hole they have to fill. Now, I wanted to mention that because I do think it means a little bit more in the court for guys like Cortland Sutton and guys like Jerry Jeudy. Now, again, we want to be careful when we're projecting year to year here because it's a new quarterback in there. They're going to do some different things. Russ may throw different route trees than the other guys do. So, whoever was the number one last year may not be the number one this year and things along those lines. Like I can tell you, I don't think the tight end is going to lead the team in targets or lead the team in catches like they did last year. Noah Fant had 68 catches for 670 yards. So he was fourth, I think, or third in the team in yardage, but he was first on the team in catches. I don't think a tight end is going to be first on the team in catches. Albert O here. So I do think that some of those catches, some of those targets are going to go to guys like Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and who's the other one? KJ Hamler, I think, is going to be in the mix as well. So I think those guys are all going to benefit a little bit there. And that's a good thing because right now their numbers all seem to be a little bit off from where we would really want to see them here. So let's get into that. Cortland Sutton last year led the team in receiving yards with 776 on 58 catches, played all 17 games. His number this year is 925, 950. Well, you know what? I mean, again, if you think Russ is going to be better, if you think they're going to pass a little more, yeah, maybe, but I actually like the under here on Cortland Sutton. I like the under at minus 112 on FanDuel. Again, they still have the good running game. They're still going to lean on it. They're going to be beating up on a lot of the bad teams they play. Their defense is good, so they'll be in some of those low-scoring games where, possession and field position are really what you're looking at there. So I just like the under on Cortland Sutton at 950 yards. I just think that's asking him to take a step forward from what he did last year. And, I don't know. I mean, maybe he does. He's got a better quarterback. There are some targets that are opened up with Patrick and Noah Fant out, but I don't know if he's the guy who's going to take the most advantage of it there. 5.5 touchdowns is his touchdown number on the season. You can get an over at minus 120 on DraftKings and under minus 102 on FanDuel. I mean, Cortland Sutton played all 17 games last year, only had 2 touchdowns. Now, again, do I think Russ is better than Teddy B? Yes, I do. But, they do still run the ball quite a bit here in Denver. That is kind of their MO and a little bit of their identity. So, again, we'll see how much Russ changes that. But I wouldn't be willing to bet that he's going to get 6 touchdowns when he only had 2 last year. Although I will say I do think regression should come because the guy who made 58 catches and had, 770 yards probably should add more than 2 touchdowns anyway. And I do expect his numbers to improve a little bit this year. The guy that I like a little bit more, I think, is Jerry Jeudy. So Jeudy only played 10 games last year, had 38 catches, 467 yards. So let's say he played all 17 games last year. I mean, you'd probably be projecting him to finish with about the same kind of numbers that Cortland Sutton had, to be honest with you. Maybe 50 plus catches and, 700, 750 yards. And again, that was with a Teddy B quarterback, not a Russell Wilson quarterback. You can get the under here as low as, or I'm sorry, you can get the over here as low as 905 on DraftKings, but it's juiced to minus 125. I'd actually rather play 915.5 over on FanDuel for minus 112. I think that's the better number for you to take if you're going to take an over here. Again, though, I am on the under on both of these guys. As much as I like Jeudy, I just don't see it. Until I see it, I won't believe it. So 949.5 yards, bet MGM. Minus 115 on the under there. I'd rather be on the under on both of these receivers than be on the over on both of them. Touchdowns for Jeudy, 5.5. Last year, he did not have a touchdown at all. FanDuel has it at 5.5. I'd rather play the under. If I'm going to play the under, though, I'll take the under at 6.5 on DraftKings. Get that under at minus 120. MGM has the under 6.5 and minus 120 as well. And like I said, I'd rather be on the under than the over with those guys. So maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, there are a lot of reasons. I think Russ is an improvement. I think the fact that Patrick and Fant are gone is going to open up more targets. There's a lot of reasons to believe in the upside of these receivers. Me personally, though, they've been guys I've been fading in fantasy drafts. Maybe I'm just not as high on them. I want to see everything click before I get on board. I think other people are just projecting them way better than I am. If you disagree, well, hey, that's what makes a market, right? I'll play these unders. You play the over. We'll keep the number somewhere in the middle. One way or another, the books are going to make some money off us, so I know they'll be happy. But there you go. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the FTN Bets Cast here at FTN Bets and sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Good luck, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.